So hello everybody, and welcome once again to our Sunday celebration. I am so excited about today because we have an interview that I did with Neale Walsch. We talk about alienation, we talk about creativity, we talk about what really is our purpose in life. Spoiler alert, it's about living our life to the fullness. So make yourself comfortable and please enjoy this celebration.
I invite you to take the next few minutes for yourself. For as we take a few minutes for ourselves, we are extending the gift of love to another. Relax your body. Adjust your posture. Relax the jaw, the face, all parts of yourself. Feel your body now, breathing itself. And with the softness of the face and the relaxation right here and now, gazing within, is the body breathing? Gazing outside of yourself, see love in a person, two-legged, in a four-legged loved one, in nature. See love. Feel love and know love. For in our mind's eye, we extend love to all beings and all things as we create a space of beauty within us. Love arises around us. Know with me the radical implication of oneness. There is no other. There is no them. There is the allness of humanity. Love and light and beauty are eternal. I am, and we are that. In your own perfect and divine way, silently offer shalom within yourself or outside, whomever you see, think, or feel. Offer them this. May you be filled with a complete and perfect peace and be full of well-being. Shalom. Peace be with you. So be it, and so it is.
It's just such an honor and a privilege for me to be with you, Neale Walsch. You have been somebody I have been deeply aware of since the early 90s, back in the day. And as I told you before, I had the distinct pleasure of getting to meet you and hear you speak at Reverend Dr. Kathy Hearn's Center back in Mission Valley, back in the day. So it's a pleasure to be with you today.
Lovely to be with you as well, Guy. May I call you Guy?
Please do.
It's nice to be with you, and I appreciate the invitation. Yes, Kathy and I were colleagues and wonderful friends back in the day.
Back in the day, yeah. I almost made it to. I went to Terry Whitaker's church twice. I went one time and thought, this is a great place. I waited 2 weeks and went back again, and she was on the platform and said, I quit. And so it was years later that I would find my way back into a new thought. But
Terry caught my attention, Guy, when I walked into her church the first time, her meeting. She was getting 800 to 1,000 people on a Sunday morning. She had to actually rent a ballroom at the largest hotel in San Diego. And I remember when I came in and she said, "Good morning." And they all said, "Good morning." She said, "If you came here looking for God this morning, notice that God arrived the moment you came into the room."
Lovely.
And I said, "Oh, am I in the right place or what?"
Yeah, I remember the time that I went, it was at the El Cortez, and there were balloons in the ballroom. And I was like, I did not know you could do church this way. This was a very exciting thing to do. And,
I wound up writing some books with Terry.
Mm-hmm. Again, going back to those days, the books that were so popular, they were the buzz, were the conversations with God. And I remember that I remember hearing you speak about them and talking about how you were sitting on your couch and there were just reams and reams of yellow binders that the muse was just coming through you. And I think that those words, there's a timeless quality about them. And I want to speak to an idea that's come out in one of your more recent books, The Essential Path, that sort of echoes back to those earlier writings. And I thought about it these last couple of weeks about 3 or 4 articles that I read in the Washington Post and the New York Times. The first one was that over half of Americans, given an emergency of $400 or more, would not be able to access that without borrowing or going onto credit in the richest nation in the world. And with that also, one of the things that's coming out is that many of the people that were part of this attempted insurrection were dealing with their own financial troubles. The other was this, is that there was an article in the New York Times that said that most Americans now feel that the greatest enemy or threat to them is not coming from the outside, but is one of their neighbors. That we have become, as a nation, so polarized that we are more afraid of each other than we are of something external. And then the third one on this whole thing was that I talked about the financial thing, is that let me just put it this way. Maybe we have lost the plot. And what these things speak to is something that the Essential Path speaks so clearly about, which is alienation.
Well, Guy, in my view, the biggest problem in the world today is that most people, and certainly most of the leaders of the world, leaders of business, industry, political leaders, social, economic leaders, religious leaders, the biggest problem in the world today is that most people don't know what the biggest problem in the world today is. They do see the fallout, and you've been mentioning it now for a moment or two. The fallout is obviously alienation. We can put that outcome in one word, alienation. I've never seen human society as alienated as it is today, these days. We've always had differences of opinion, of course, on this planet and in our societies, but I've never seen the kind of rank alienation, almost hatred, anger leading almost to hatred between peoples of different cultures, different religions, different political points of view, different nationalities. And so I began to look deeply at what is causing this alienation. So to repeat what I just said, we see the fallout of the biggest problem in the world today, but nobody seems to understand what the cause of it is. It's like when your car can't start, you turn the key and the car doesn't start, but unless you're a mechanic and know exactly where to look under the hood, you have no way of knowing why isn't the car starting. Why isn't humanity's greatest time on this earth starting? Why are we stalled and stuck here where we are? And I'm not hearing the answer from our spiritual leaders. I'm not hearing the answer from our political leaders. I'm not hearing the answer from our captains of business and industry. Nobody seems to be able to find the answer to what's causing this alienation in specific terms. So I decided to address a book that offered a possible answer. I think the answer can also be put into one word: separation. Mm-hmm. Humanity, in my view, Guy, holds an idea that we live in a separation cosmology, that is, in a milieu or an environment within which everything is separate from everything else. Starting at the top, there is a God. 8 out of 10 people, surveys show, believe in some sort of higher power. But almost all of those people, the largest majority for sure, believe that God's up there and we're down here somewhere. That is, we're separate from God. I call that separation theology. You know, it wouldn't be so bad if it just started and ended there, but that's not the beginning and the end of it, because the separation theology inevitably produces a separation cosmology. That is, a thought that everything, in fact, is separate from everything else. Planets are separate from each other. People are separate from each other. You know, we're separate from nature. Nature is separate from animals. We live in a separation cosmology. And that wouldn't be so bad either if it began and ended there, but it doesn't, because it goes further. A separation cosmology inevitably produces a separation psychology. That is, an individual holding that, oh my gosh, I'm separate from everything else. Or to put it another way, I'm out here all alone. I'm all by myself. Oh my, what am I to do? What am I to do? How am I going to survive? And you know what? We could even get away with that. But it doesn't stop, I should say, there, because a separation psychology inevitably produces a separation sociology. That is, entire societies that form themselves into groups. We call them nations, we call them clubs, we call them political parties, we call them religions. We gather in small little groups that imagine themselves to be separate from each other, because separation is the only way we can serve our own needs, our own agenda, and therefore survive. And you know what, Guy? We could almost get away with that if it was just a thought that we had. But the problem is that a separation sociology inevitably produces a separation pathology. That is, pathological behaviors of self-destruction, evident in human behavior from the beginning of time, and even more evident today, perhaps, than ever before. So if we see then, the problem is we think we're separate from each other. And we've been holding this idea of separation for thousands of years, for thousands of millennia, if you please. And if we could simply change our mind about who we are in relationship to everything else, we could shift the global ethic and become part of a new way of being human, which I believe would bring an end to the largest number of human-made problems. So in a nutshell, that's the essential path. The essential path, in my view, is to walk the path of unity, to walk the path of oneness. You know, I'm going to say something daring here, Guy, then I'll shut up for a minute and give you a chance to chime in. But the daring thing I would like to talk about when I talk about walking the path of unity, walking the path of oneness, is I dare to suggest that we are one with the divine, that we are one with God, that there is not even a separation between us and what some people call the higher power. If that was true, we have then found a solution to humanity's God dilemma.
You know, we were talking earlier, and I was quoting the 11th century scholar Anselm, who said, you know, God became human so humans could become God. I think how you and I would talk about that would be say it's not so much that God did something that isn't already in existence. God didn't become human for any other reason that is what God is. But it's more that God reveals itself in creation so that we begin to understand that we are all part of creation.
Which, if I could take that one step logically further, that's the reason that life exists. That the purpose of life in all of its forms is to demonstrate and express what we would call divinity. And that is the soul's agenda, the agenda of every soul, of every sentient being in the cosmos, not just those of us here on Earth, but of course there's intelligent life, we are now pretty clear, in many other places of the cosmos as well. So all intelligent life, every sentient entity holds the same agenda to demonstrate what it is. It's one thing to know, for instance, and by the way, it's a desire that is inherent in every sentient being. It's one thing for me to know that I'm loving. It's one thing for me to know intellectually that I'm a caring person, that I'm a generous person, a kind and compassionate person. But if I don't express that, if I don't have an opportunity to actually express that, to put that into action, therefore to become it in action, then I can only know it as a concept. And knowing myself as a concept is not enough for me. I want to know myself as an experience. I want to experience who and what I really am. So I demonstrate every aspect of who I am that I imagine myself to be. If I think that I'm compassionate, I demonstrate compassion. If I think that I'm generous, I demonstrate generosity and all the other wonderful characteristics that I assign to the aspect of life itself that I understand myself to be. When that becomes the motivation, the reason I'm alive, as the French delightfully call it, my raison d'etre, when that becomes my raison d'etre, my reason for being, everything else suddenly falls into place, because that is truly, in my estimation, what I would call the kingdom of heaven, being who we really are, expressing ourselves as divinity personified, is heaven. And someone much more articulate than I will ever be once said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things will be added unto you." So don't go around wondering, no, what are we going to eat? What are we going to drink? Wherewithal will we clothe ourselves? No. These things fall in on you automatically when we are on the essential path. But you know what's sad about this guy? Very few people really understand or know this. Even in this so-called day of enlightenment, even in this time when we imagine ourselves to be an advanced civilization, if it weren't for the few messengers, the voices in the wilderness, of which you are one, standing in front of other people saying, wait, is it possible? Is it just possible that there's something we don't fully understand here about God, about life, and about ourselves? The understanding of which would change everything.
Yeah. In your book, you say that. You say, sooner or later, every thinking person comes around again to ask this question: is it possible, just possible, that there is something we don't fully understand about ourselves, about life, yes, about God, the understanding of which would change everything? And that powerful sense of awakening to that which is truly who we are is a game changer. One of my spiritual heroes, a man by the name of Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, says this. He says that in time, when we discover the power of love, it will be as if we've discovered fire a second time. That radical game changer that everything changes. If we begin to perceive the world in which we live from the power of love.
But we're culturalized not to believe that. The culture tells us, even by the way, surprisingly, I want to say shockingly, even certain religions tell us that it is not correct to assume that you are divine or that you are even a part of divinity. Some religions call it blasphemy to say that, apostasy, heresy. So we are even taught by our religions, to say nothing of the larger society and the larger culture, not to imagine that you are an aspect of divinity. I even said in my conversations with God, when I was having that two-way conversation on paper, I remember writing, I almost can't believe it. And the answer I got was, why not? And I said, well, it's almost too good to be true that you and I would be one, my dear friend God. And the reply I got from God was, Neale, if I can't be too good to be true, who can?
I love that. Yeah. And if we are made in the image and likeness of that, that goodness is there for us. You hit on something that I think is really interesting. It was the third point that I wanted to make at the very beginning, which is an article that I read that said that people that grow up in religious traditions, particularly fundamentalist religious traditions, and I would add fundamental new thought in this as well, is that they are probably more prone to conspiracy theories because they have been taught to override facts and intuition in lieu of belief. And so you're right, we're conditioned to override what our heart tells us.
Belief is the most important aspect of life as I observe it. Belief creates behavior. Behavior creates experience. Experience creates your reality. So, in fact, it's true that as you believe it, so will it be done unto you. And the God Solution, which is the latest book that I've published, it's only been out now a few weeks. The God Solution suggests that we can solve all of this by simply changing our beliefs, by simply expanding our beliefs, by, in fact, doing something incredibly daring, by coming up with a brand new definition of God. That instead of it defining, see, because here's the point. Let me go back one step. The problem we have on the earth right now is that we tend to behave the way we imagine God behaves. That is, we have been using God as our model, as our exemplar for all these many thousands and hundreds of thousands of years. So we decide that as God is, so are we. In fact, we've reversed it. We've made God in the image and likeness of us. Right. And so we have imagined then that God is judgmental and condemning and punishing. And so we have this judgmental, condemning, and punishing God that we begin to emulate as we move into our own experience and our expression of life. Now, what the God Solution suggests is that we create a new definition of God. Dare we imagine a God who needs nothing, requires nothing, and demands nothing from us in exchange for God's love for us? Dare we imagine a God who is pure love, not just love? Many people would say, of course, God is love. We can agree with that. God is love. But I say to people, no, not just God is love. God is a particular brand of love. God is what we call pure love. Pure love requires, demands, expects, hopes for nothing in return. In fact, pure love even loves, the purest love is the love of something that we don't think deserves love.
Right.
And that's what I call pure love. So if we can chance upon a brand new definition of God, we've come upon the God Solution, which produces, in fact, a new ethic, a new behavioral standard. It turns out that Milton Bennett, the sociologist of the past few years, had a great idea, not the golden rule, but the platinum rule. The platinum rule is even more valuable, he said, than the golden rule, because platinum is more valuable than gold. And Milton Bennett's platinum rule is this: do unto others as they would have it done unto them. Mm-hmm. And so I want to share something before we say goodbye. There's one thing that I say to people that they can use as a tool to step into their divine self. It's daring. It's spiritually courageous. But every time you meet a person or encounter a person or come across another human being, whether it's the person you're living with, the person on the other side of the bed in the morning when you wake up, the person on the other side of the street, as you mentioned a moment ago, or the person on the other side of town, or the person on the other side of the world, whoever it is that you're encountering, I invite you to say these words in your mind. You ready? This is courageous, but don't say it out loud because they might string you up, but say it in your mind. I have come that you may have life, and that you may have it more abundantly. Your life will be made better this day because we cross paths. I promise you.
Yes, and what a blessing to speak to every plant, every tree, every person. Every time we encounter anyone or anything, we are encountering the divine as the divine. To say, I have come so that you may have life and have it abundantly. Boy, that's a radical statement, isn't it?
Take spiritual courage.
Yes.
But you have to really know who you are. There are only 4 fundamental questions in life. I invite everybody to ask them each morning when they see themselves in the mirror. Question number 1, who am I? Number 2, where am I? That is, what is this milieu I find myself in? Question number 3, why am I where I am? And question number 4, what do I intend to do about that? Careful. You ask yourself these 4 questions every day, and it will change your life overnight.
Well, I want to thank you so much for spending time with myself and our community. It was a dream come true to finally meet you, to be able to sit and have a conversation. You have done tremendous good in the world. The world lives more abundantly because you said yes.
You're very kind to say that, my friend. Thank you for those words. And I want everyone to understand that this is not about me in particular, but all of us have an opportunity to step into the grandest notion we ever held about who we are. God invites us, God encourages us, and if I could use a metaphor, God almost begs us to do that.
Yes. Teilhard says God lures us.
I love it. I love it.
God lures us forward into evolution. Yes. Well, thank you again, my friend.
Thank you, Guy. Lovely to spend this time with you and very much appreciate the invitation and the opportunity. Blessed be.
Well, I don't usually write songs like this, but I got this feeling I can't dismiss. See, I've been afraid, played the part too long, chasing perfection, wondering why it went wrong. But life's not like a movie poster, it's a stop, fall apart roller coaster. So stand up tall, you can't win them all, and you don't always hit the notes you're supposed to. No, you don't always hit the notes you're supposed to. So I'm strutting into everything, don't care if I lose. They'll be looking at me strange, like all confused. Keep your chin up, man, you gotta understand. Some of the best things came from a change of plan. And life's not like a movie poster, it's a stop, fall apart roller coaster. But you'll be fine, you'll get them next time. And you don't always hit the notes you're supposed to. No, you don't always hit the notes you're supposed to. It's not a selfie stick or a get rich quick. It's not a headline, no, you can't rewind. Nobody shows their deleted scenes. It's the highs and the lows, but mostly in betweens. So keep lending your hand and humming your tune. You could reach for the stars and fall for the moon. There's people hurting and the world's gone berserk. Won't you breathe with me, 'cause our lungs still work. And life's not like a movie poster, it's a stop, fall apart roller coaster. But I'm okay, it just wasn't my day. And you don't always hit the notes you're supposed to. No, you don't always hit the notes you're supposed to. See, you don't always hit the notes you're supposed to. Well, I don't usually write songs like this, but I got this feeling I can't dismiss. I was too busy wishing for my destiny. I was missing all the magic right in front of me.
Hi, I'm here to share with you why I choose to give to Hilltop Spiritual Center. You know, I come from a spiritual background, so it was the teachings that drew me. Teachings of truth and wisdom, a divine order of beingness. They continue to fill me each and every day And I began to come back again and again. And I found a community that supported me as well. Not everyone was like me, but everyone was willing to grow and learn together. And so this great place became a place where I began to thrive, where I was personally nurtured and in times healed by love and healed by a community that cares. So I hope that you will join me in supporting a great expansiveness, a place that touches each of us in our own divine and unique way, a place that is truly here for you as we are here for each other. Thank you so much for your wonderful gift of giving.